Good morning, everybody, to Salesforce DX, presented by AutoRABIT. My name is Patrick Boyle. It's 7 a.m. here in California. Good morning to United States. Good afternoon to Europe and evening, and good night to India. We have everyone from around the world joining us. On our end, on the speaker slide here, you'll see Niranjan and Prashanth. They are in our Hyderabad, India office right now. They are steeped in our Salesforce DX initiative, having helped build it and helped implement it with customers, live customers. We have a couple of customers, we'll talk more about that are using it currently and more queued up for December. My name is Patrick Boyle. I'm the U.S. Manager for Enterprise and Strategic Sales. A lot of my customers that are the enterprise customers are the ones that are looking at DX going forward. We're going to have a very simple agenda this morning. We'll talk a little bit about AutoRABIT. We'll talk about what DX is, of course, what Salesforce DX is. Then we're going to look, I'm going to jump in and look at the actual solution with a hands-on demo with Niranjan and Prashanth. And we're going to do a Q&A at the end. That said, we had a session yesterday, and we had little bits of time between while we're waiting for maybe the API to come back to us. So we can insert a question in there. So definitely use the chat function on your webinar control panel there to throw a question in there that you want, and we'll get to it as soon as we can. Additionally, we will, of course, send out the recording to everybody. It should happen automatically, and we'll double check that it happened last night. We had a lot of inquiries as to where's the recording, but we'll make sure everyone gets the recording. You don't have to hit us up on the web contact form for the recording. So let's jump right into it. Again, this will be a all meat and potatoes. That's an American expression, sorry. All meat and potatoes presentation, no sales. I hope Prashanth and Niranjan don't try to sell them anything, okay? AutoRABIT, we've been around since 2014, headquartered in San Ramon, California, really dual headquarters. We have locations in Hyderabad, as I mentioned, Atlanta, Georgia, a couple of big clients down there, New Jersey, serving the East Coast, Australia, Germany. We do continuous delivery for Saas platforms, focused primarily on Salesforce, of course. That gets you your CI/CD going on Salesforce, which we all know is a unique animal. And we help developers and admins by basically automating all the development and manual processes. So it's much more than a release situation. So why do I mention that? It's because Salesforce DX comes out, and that's nominally in the mission there is to do the same thing. It's a partial solution at this point. It's a good solution. It's a good step. We bring it under our umbrella as well. We incorporate the pieces of the DX that are out there, and we make them easy to use. And we'll get into that, of course, more. If we look at some of the customers, and I call this out to talk about some of the ones that are using it now. Schneider Electric over here on the left was a pilot customer for Salesforce DX, and they're using our DX solution, and then SunPower down at the bottom as well. The other guys, there's much more than this. This is some of the showcase ones that Salesforce tosses out there as well. Just real quick, the AutoRABIT suite of features is an end-to-end solution. These are, the primary components, and, you can imagine the DX fits into some of these buckets, at the initial part with the orgs, and then the packaging throughout. So it makes sense for us to integrate and put in a usability layer on top of DX and make it part of the end-to-end solution that we're offering our customers. With that, that's a basic intro to AutoRABIT, so you know kind of what we're doing with DX and why. We're going to turn it over to the team in India, Niranjan and Prashanth, who are going to take us through a few more slides and and also, give us a hands-on demo. So bear with me while I switch it back over to you guys. Oh. Niranjan and Prashanth, if you can still hear me, take it away.
Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, let us go through a couple of quick slides that sets up the tone for what really is DX about and what AutoRABIT is trying to accomplish for DX. And in between us, myself, I am Niranjan. I head the Customer Success Division, and I have Prashanth with me, who is an architect in Customer Success Division. And we have a bunch of questions that have hit at Dreamforce. We have one of the most popular booths in the dev zones. A lot of questions. We try to have those questions answered as we progress into the hands-on session. So to start with, before we even think of DX, we have to think a minute about why get into DX in the first place. To get there, life without DX is about change sets. Today even there are several enterprises who still use change sets for their packaging and deployment. It's not that it's not bad, but it has its own benefits. You can do deployments between the connected orgs. It works well as long as the projects are small, few member teams. It's still manageable. But as the teams grow, more importantly, as Force.com platform evolves, shapes itself into more of a modern development pattern, which means it has to make itself available for the open source. It has to be made available for all the agile methodologies to be able to pick up and put into process. So that is where making a change set by each member in the team, deploying it, there can be chances of overwritten. There is a limitation of 2,500 components, and then it doesn't really enable a team development, because if two members work on an account object or a particular field, at the end of the day after deployment, one change is gone. So it doesn't really enable the team development, can't really match these change sets. And if as a CI leadership team or as an enterprise architect team, if you really want to set a process, okay, for every change that's being done, there has to be a review process, there has to be an automated build, there has to be a deployment, there has to be a verification. All this is not possible with change sets because it's pretty closed loop model. That is where a system like DX, an initiative like DX, is a significant direction forward to evolve the entire community to get into more of process driven, more automation driven setup. Of course, what is DX bringing? The first and foremost is scratch orgs. We know the importance of a very lean org, because if a developer has to work on a user story, in an ideal world, there has to be a refresh of the dev sandbox to get the latest of production. And to do that, it's very cost effective, very costly affair, both from an infrastructure standpoint from Salesforce, as well as for a team to make all those configuration changes and to get the dev sandbox again with like changing the email settings, whatnot. You have multiple steps to reset the sandbox. So this is not helping both dev teams as Salesforce. That is where a notion of a very optimal lean footprint given to teams, wherein you have everything, like you have features enabled, you have preferences enabled, you can have marketing cloud, you can have service cloud, anything enabled, but it doesn't have a dump of your production metadata. You can take whatever you want from production and you can put into your scratch org and you can develop the feature. That is where it takes you from all the team working in single dev sandbox, thereby stepping on each other's toes, stepping on each other's shoes to a model where anybody who wants to develop a feature can independently take a scratch org, work in that scratch org, complete that feature, get it for review. If it is approved, move it into the release line, and the developer can go ahead and start working on next feature independently. So that is what the feature-driven development is really possible with scratch orgs. And it also moves the, as I was introducing before, the move from change sets to DX actually opens up a whole world of automation opportunities. I want to run regression tests on every change, on every deployment. I want to run static code analysis. I want to run code coverage. I want to have a version control integrated. I want to have a Gerrit kind of code review tool in process. So if you really want to set these things up, that is where DX opens that world of opportunities. That is where we look at from a DevOps perspective. DX is not an initiative or something from Salesforce. It's an opportunity as well for the enterprise architect teams, leadership teams to really set a very streamlined process automation for Salesforce release management. Source control is the source of truth. That's what from AutoRABIT we have been advocating this for years now, and we are glad this is more of a statement that is driven by Salesforce Force.com platform as well. So with changing from change sets to DX, you have metadata API, which is queryable, which you can write programs, you can retrieve, you can package, you can deploy, and then you have an ability to source control, you can integrate with servers. You have a very good command line interface with DX, which means the moment you create a scratch org, you can put some metadata there, you can put some data there, you can validate deployment, you can run unit tests, you can get code coverage, and the developer can be absolutely sure that whatever work is being done meets the quality criteria of the company. Then working on these, passing to release team, and they start doing the validate deployment and figuring out that these components are missing, and then there will be back and forth communication, and it takes a lot of time in the entire process for communication itself. So this is a workflow that AutoRABIT is envisioning for Salesforce DX. Essentially, the life of a developer starts with a user story being assigned. That is where it all starts. The ALM can be your Jira. The ALM can be your version 1. It can be Agile Accelerator, or maybe in Salesforce itself, we have seen some customers having a form for filling up the user stories and managing them. So either way, from an ALM, there is a requirement that is assigned to a developer. And what does the developer do? First, the developer has to create a scratch org. And then to push the changes, there has to be a feature branch. And then there has to be some metadata that needs to go into the scratch orgs. The required metadata for development of the story. This comes as provisioning, and AutoRABIT has completely automated provisioning system. Same thing here, assigning a developer gets a user story, then creates a scratch org, creates a feature branch, load the metadata members into the scratch org that are required for development of the story. Then comes the actual phase, development phase. Developer works in the scratch org. Developer is ready with his changes and submits them. AutoRABIT has a check-in gate, which is one of the most powerful things around, wherein before a change is even submitted to source control, you can have a comprehensive view of how good or how bad it is. This is where the real purpose of CI, is achieved. A true CI system is in place only when there is early warning in place. Early warning enables the developers to solve any problems on the same day and go home and sleep peacefully at night. Then figuring out during an integration phase or during a staging phase or during a production phase that certain things are missing. If you look at the statistics of October, AutoRABIT could catch around 15,000, 16,000 deployment issues at our check-in gate. putting it into a standard probability distribution of 30% caught in SIT, mostly due to dependency issues, 30% caught in staging, mostly due to code coverage not being there, and another 30% caught at production, primarily because there was no enough data during the staging and integration phase. Because of data issues, some test cases failed. Now, putting this, you can count how many number of hours on a 16,000 failures caught in development time versus 5,000 each at these, and what will be the savings that development community might have received in October when around 5,000 failures are prevented from production failure, production deployment issues, and the whole team did not burn their Fridays, did not burn their weekends to complete the deployment. This is where a check-in gate is extremely powerful. That is where AutoRABIT makes it a thorough early warning system for Salesforce teams. So once development is done, it's about releasing it. So when I say release, it's about merge into an integration line, deploying to integration box, probably running the suite validation test, running the regression test for more comprehensive feedback, and then move it to UAT, move it to eventually merge to master, and then deploy to prod. So this is all this, what you see on this screen can be end-to-end automated with AutoRABIT. That is something that we will be going through as a hands-on phase in the next couple of minutes. This is a quick release process diagram, may be relevant to some of you, maybe some things, similar things you may be following in your teams as well, where developers have scratch works, and then they push to respective feature branch based on their feature development, and then the changes will be merged to an integration. And from integration line, there's a deployment that happens to integration box. Here you have more extensive testing done, and then it's merged to a release line and deployed to UAT and merged to master and then deployed to prod. For hotfixes, we have seen two strategies. A dedicated hotfix box, which is constantly in sync with production, is used for any hotfixes or break fixes. On the other hand, some teams we have seen them following to regular development pattern that is more driven by number of hotfixes that gets delivered in the week. Finally, deployed to prod. So all this looks overwhelming for a team to start with who have not gone to CI/CD journey, but once we start getting into the process and start getting the ROI out of it. For example, you can start with how much time is my team spending in integration phase? How many deployment failures are coming because of dependencies, because of test case issues, because of test data issues? How many iterations are happening at integration, at UAT, at staging, at production? And with the process in place, how is it getting benefited? It's a very easy ROI. In couple of releases, you will see the significant benefits process automation brings. So on this state, let me just go ahead to real AutoRABIT environment and see if I can automate what is shown on the screen here.